I'm curious how you feel that natural resources and coke and different commodities are going to play in the global economy and for Nucor's success and other companies' success. Scrap, you name it, everything that needs to make manufacturing run.
Great question. And every commodity, every raw material is going to be challenged and continue to be challenged as we go forward. The world population continues to grow. Okay, we talked about China, and the growth rate that they've had just in steel. In the last 5 years, they've gone from producing about 100 million tons of steel a year to over 500 million tons of steel a year. And you mentioned specifically scrap, and that's a subject that's near and dear to Nucor, being an electric arc furnace-based company. We use scrap as a primary raw material. Let me give you a little bit of some statistics on scrap. 5 years ago, the United States exported about 6 million tons of scrap every year, and that number had been consistent for almost 20 years. Last year, we exported 24 million tons, 4 times the amount. In a 5-year period, the amount of a critical raw material to this nation has left the United States, has increased 4 times, 4-fold. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, the demand for the commodity has gone up. So what do we do about that? That's why I mentioned earlier, one of the challenges of all manufacturers is to continue to improve the efficiency and use of critical raw materials. Scrap being one, iron ore being another, okay, energy being another. Okay? All of those commodities are going to increase in cost as we go forward. I don't see that letting up. Certainly not in the next 10 years. So what does Nucor need to do? What do all of you need to do in that environment? Continue to focus on continuously improving the way that you use those raw materials. Make every penny that you spend on those raw materials count. Become more efficient in every aspect of your consumption of your critical raw materials. I might point out one thing. I don't want to beat this trade thing to death, but I do want to point out, since scrap came up, okay, one of the key reasons that the amount of scrap leaving the United States has increased so much in the last several years is that many other countries have now put a tax on the exportation of scrap to such a level that it is no longer economically viable to export scrap. Classic example is the Ukraine and Russia. Russia used to export about 8 million tons of scrap a year. The Ukraine, a little bit less, somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 million tons. Both of those countries now have declared scrap a strategic resource. And in some cases, during certain periods of time, they've banned it. In other periods of time, they've just taxed it. Both had the effect of reducing the amount of scrap that left those countries. Now, the United States does not do that, and I'm not advocating that we do. Okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating we do. But I am advocating that our government holds those countries that do that accountable for that in our trade agreements. So, coming back to your question, what do I see happening with commodities? The pricing is going to continue to increase. Their availability is going to become more challenged, and we have to continue to find better and better ways to use a scarcer raw material.